Well, good morning, Dabney. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks, Andres.
As always, it's a great honor and pleasure to talk to you. Today, I'm really thrilled to be able to ask you a bunch of questions about what you do at Satya. How many clients have you seen?
165.
That is a huge number. That's probably going to make you one of the most experienced people on the planet in this context. Why do you think so many people have come to see you?
I have a lot of experience with psilocybin. I feel really lucky that I found it at a pretty early age. So I've been working with psilocybin for about 30 years. And for most of that time, doing very high doses myself. And it absolutely, completely transformed my life, changed me in many ways, helped me heal from anxiety, depression, impacts of life. And I know very deeply how this medicine works, how it can work, and how to work with it. So
I remember when I met you 2 years ago, more or less this time, and I just knew that you're going to be a superstar. I think I told you that when we met, right? And you have a tremendous number of Google reviews and countless testimonials from people without being on Google. What do you think makes your approach to this so effective?
I feel like the experience that I have working with psilocybin and other psychedelics like ayahuasca has taught me a lot about how to address each person that comes in absolutely uniquely. Everyone is an individual that is completely different. They're coming in with different reasons and different, situations or presentations, things they're working through. So I think calibrating to each unique person is so important, and building the rapport during prep, getting to know each person, and really it helps me know how to focus on what's going to help them have the best session for them. And so prep is going to be different for every client, helping them have their own tools and explaining to them all the different ways that they can prepare for them to come in. And that's going to look very different if someone is, let's say, depressed versus someone that has PTSD or OCD. It's going to be different for every client. And so I am able to direct exactly how each person maybe wants to prepare.
Every client is different, is what you're saying, and you take a very personalized approach.
Yes.
People often say that you have a lot of compassion too. So that probably comes from all the experience you have from life experiences, but also your psychedelic experience. You're also, though, seeking higher education too.
Yes. I'm in grad school right now. I'm getting my degree to be a licensed psychotherapist, and I love bridging the worlds of psychology and neuroscience. I love keeping up on all the research that's so phenomenal out there going on with psychedelics and psilocybin. And I think it's a really important bridge to bridge psychology with psychedelics. And it's just such an effective tool. Psychedelics can help us get into those unconscious places, which is where a lot of the patterns that end up as anxiety and depression and other things that would maybe be a diagnosis, it can really help people understand why they're feeling the way they are, and also give them very effective tools on how to make those changes, how to get that reset, how to, you know, bring in the life they want to be living.
You see a lot of different clients. What are the main reasons people are coming to see you?
I would say more often than not, it's a combination of anxiety, depression, but also general people saying they feel stuck or they feel uninspired in their life. Maybe they're just highly stressed, or they feel like there could be something more, that they could be enjoying their life better, or they notice that they're so stressed that they're maybe not able to be as present with their families, or they're not just loving their life in some way and they feel like they need something. They don't exactly know what that is yet, but they are wanting that reset, that clearing out, which phenomenally happens in really different ways. But the psilocybin experience, it's like a 1 day reset that brings about a lot of increased clarity and insights and emotional healing, all sorts of different ways that it works.
How do you see psilocybin working to change a person?
Again, every person is different, so it works in many different ways, but a lot of the, the challenges, if we're looking at it through a more psychological lens, that lead to this anxiety or stuckness, it comes from like deep patterns of neural pathways. That's the definition of anxiety disorders, depressing disorders, is over carved grooves in the mind of neural pathways. And so to be able to reset that, the grooves have to be released. And the grooves are just spots that have been going for so long. And again, they're more coming from our unconscious. So we don't have a direct choice to just stop thinking these thoughts. The reset that happens with the psilocybin that many clients describe afterwards is, I feel like I'm myself again. I have this space, breathing room, instead of my thoughts being so overwhelming and I can't kind of break out of the loop. Now I get this fresh start feeling. And so some people describe it as like fresh snow on the mountain. And then as your life, continues afterwards and during integration work together as the follow-up, you start to notice and see some of those patterns and grooves. And you have so much more self-awareness and empowerment and resilience to choose to create new neural pathways.
One of the most challenging things as facilitators is dosing strategies. And every facilitator has their own approach to dosing strategies. And I think yours is one of the ones that is unique, that I've seen as being exceptionally effective. You would like to talk a little bit about how you approach dosing with clients?
Yes, I think dosing is one of the most important parts of the process because this medicine is powerful, it's beautiful, it's incredible, and it's also, in a wonderful way, pretty short-lived experience when you take the medicine. And so how I work, and I think it works very effectively for people, especially people who have never done a psychedelic in their life, because you don't know exactly what it's like until you're experiencing it. All the work that we do in prep work, it's still going to be, conceptual, an idea of what you think it's like. But you don't really know what it's like until it's happening. And so I like to have a really finely nuanced style with dosing. And so I start everyone off with a pretty small amount, much more than a microdose. It's enough to where the client's going to start the journey, the first hour, starting to notice mushroom things, but they're still feeling very much themselves in control. They're just like, oh, I'm noticing mushroom things. They also start to get really relaxed, comfortable. It eases a lot of anxiety that maybe people came in with, nervousness of what's this going to be like. They start to say, oh, this is like what my friend told me, or this is like that documentary I saw. Okay, I'm starting to get it now a little bit. And that's a really great entryway, as I see it, into then when they take their second dose, then it just gradually expands and they tend to just kind of fall into the bigger experience without too much of a big, too much too fast feeling. So I like to just gently ease people into the experience. So it tends to be a lot more smoother of a experience.
It's a very effective approach, and you've done this with 165 people, so it's proven it's over the test of time. And it seems like you're trying to get people into kind of a relaxed, go with it spirit. One of our favorite things as facilitators to deal with is resistance. Would you like to talk a little bit about resistance?
Yes, resistance it's such a widely used term and it's important. And I think one thing that I like to tell all my clients is every one of us has resistance.
Right.
Resistance is not something that you did and you failed because you had resistance. Resistance is part of what keeps us alive. And when we're working towards, healing things like emotional challenges, like resistance is pain avoidance. It's literally how we have kept ourselves going, and it's how we keep resilience. We kind of push things away to deal with until later. And that's normal and healthy. And so sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes during the psilocybin journey, some of those things can come up. And in the journey, it's can be magnified and amplified. And so I like to say that the big part of the prep work that I do with people is making people very prepared that they are going to have a wide set of tools and are ready to meet something that might show up as resistance. It's common for facilitators to say, like, before you go into the journey, have that attitude of how can I turn towards something instead of turn away? And so the medicine itself shows each one of us every time we take it what our personal resistance is and what that looks like, and also how to move through it. A lot of times in psychology and therapy, there's the idea of sitting with the uncomfortable, because when you sit with something, instead of resisting it, instead of trying to turn away from it, when you turn towards it, in the psilocybin journeys, it's pretty phenomenal because that's the quickest way through. Quickest way through is through. And again, during prep work, we go into great details on how to just relax and control your breath. Take some deep breaths. Sometimes people might ask to hold my hand for a minute to help them like co-regulate. And just by that calming, relaxing, really like energy that feels like surrendering or allowing, that helps teach you how to go through that resistance and how to just move right past it. And it also carries through afterwards with integration for life in general. How do we learn how to move through our difficult emotions and feelings and not resist them? So it's an important piece.
Yes, it is. And it's always interesting, even, myself, when I do a journey, I just ask the mushrooms to be nice to me.
Yes. Yes. Right. Keep it slow, easeful, and effective.
Yes. One of the things people resist is the physical effects that they may have. And there might be twitching, thrashing, rolling around, yelling, crying, many things that tie back to physical things. And the technical word, I think, is somatic response. Can you describe a little bit about somatics and how that works with psilocybin?
Absolutely. So somatic awareness is basically the awareness that our body is designed to be tracking our environment and giving responses back to us on, are we feeling safe or agitated or calm or relaxed? And it's something that happens kind of unconsciously. It just goes on. And oftentimes, throughout our life, especially the first, 20 something years of our life, our nervous system is building in response to our environment. And it's like a direct feedback loop. Like, am I safe? Am I calm? And we all have millions of these different little levels of these stressors that kind of designed our personal, nervous system. And as time goes on, it builds up. And that's when people are like, I have anxiety I can't control, or I'm deep in a depression because of all the millions of little things that kind of built up to these. And so often, not all the time, but sometimes during a session, people's bodies want to release because the trauma of all those stresses is stored in the body and the mind. That's why for a lot of people, talk therapy is not very effective at really pushing the needle and bringing about healing, because the whole somatic awareness and somatic response are basically understanding that the mind-body connection is so important, and that our thoughts and feelings and emotions are also connected to understanding our body's response. Like anxiety is a very physical feeling, depression as well, and noticing where we're holding tension perhaps, or just sometimes the body wants to release trauma through shaking, rolling, moaning, and it's really beautiful. I love it when I call it the clients are going somatic. It's great. They just allow their body to do what the body needs to do. Stretching. Sometimes they get on the ground. They have lots of blankets and pillows and they roll around. And sometimes clients don't. And sometimes they'll have different sessions where they'll come back, have a session and come back a year later. And the first session, maybe they were just very quiet and relaxed, almost like they were, taking a nap and having a very inner journey. And then they come back again and the body is ready to release some of the things that have maybe been stored in there to kind of give that physical reset as well. And so then that, again, we talk about this during prep. So when those things show up, it's not surprising. And it's like, just truly go with it. Allow your body to do what it needs to do. And it's really beautiful. And I find people feel a lot of like a really big, deep physical reset feeling after that.
That's a really good perspective. We oftentimes tell clients, as I certainly do, that whatever you do in the journey, there's nobody judging you, and you're not coming out here to perform for us or to be a certain thing. You're here to come out, have your default mode removed, and whatever comes out, and we're just there to support it. So pretty much anything can happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
and opening that container, like creating that awareness, again, during prep before they come in, they know that what happens in the room stays in the room. And that choosing a facilitator is very important because you want to have that person there that just they know how to help you at any moment. They have all the tools and can help share the tools with you so you can navigate through anything and get, if you get to a place where something might seem challenging or overwhelming, you have your person there that's almost like your tour guide. They've been in this experience, they speak the language, they've been to this landscape, this mushroom landscape that, you haven't been to perhaps for the first time, so they can help you navigate anything that might arise that might seem difficult or challenging.
The biggest question and the most common question, besides logistics and how the program works, usually the more important question and the most important question is, am I going to have a bad trip? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have a lot of people ask me this, right? Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that you've seen, right? Because, I've seen a lot of different things. I've seen a lot of different things. And
Right.
so I like to say that, I feel personally, if I've done my prep really well and effective, which I always am aiming to do, prep as long as the client needs to, they will have all the tools themselves to navigate something that could be a challenging trip or a bad trip or a challenging moment. That's also why I dose the way that I do, because I find that easing people into the experience really like eliminates a lot of that, because it's almost like the on-site, on-the-job training. That first hour, hour and a half, as they're at like a low dose, they start to see how it works. It often comes in waves, and they start to be able to like, oh, right, those things we were talking about or practicing during prep. I can breathe. I can relax my body. I can practice what surrender feels like. And so then as it goes into the bigger dose, it's a much smoother transition because they're already, I like to say you're already at low altitude, and going from low altitude to high altitude is like you tend to just kind of melt into it. And so if those difficult moments arise, like you have your facilitator, you have your person there that they can help calm you down, help you breathe, and kind of get right back into the smooth sailing. There's also a lot of tools that I've learned from all my experiences, because I've been, in the beginning, 30 years ago, there wasn't this landscape of, sitters. And so I've been through many of my own journeys where I had challenging moments. I didn't know if I was going to come back. I didn't know how to navigate it. And I learned very much how to do that. And so that's how I try to help my clients, teach them the things that I've learned, some tools to just really, if something arises and it's really difficult, if the imagery starts looking weird, if something starts seeming like it's going towards that bad trip, I'm able to help them understand and notice the second it seems like it starts going in that direction. There's a lot of effective tools to just relax and bring it back in, and the experience is so dynamic, it changes so quickly that easily by relaxing the body and breathing and just surrendering can shift it. The next scene will just shift right back into something more pleasant, or they'll have some great understanding, and it will feel like it's a completion of whatever that challenging moment was, and they're able to move right into the next experience.
I think that for many of my clients, and I'm sure many of yours, the bad trip or the bad scene is events in life like early childhood abuse or trauma, or these difficult things that happen to us in life. The psilocybin, there's a natural apprehension for, oh my goodness, I'm going to have this thing with the psilocybin. The reality is that most people have been through much worse than they're ever going to experience in the journey. I think that leads us into what should people expect in terms of expectations of what's going to happen in the journey, but also what's going to happen as a result of the journey.
A lot of people are coming in with trauma. I tend to work with people that have complex trauma, PTSD, and I bring the trauma-informed lens, right? And so understanding, first of all, psilocybin is not exposure therapy. It's not going to bring up every one of your worst memories and things that you don't want to look at. It tends to go a lot smoother. That being said, things can arise, which again, with each individual client, we'll be going over this in their personal life story during the prep work. And so if something does arise, which I see in my experience that people don't ever have something that arises that might seem difficult or challenging that's too much for them or too overwhelming. I think that could happen if people took maybe really, really high doses and were not in a setting where they felt really safe and calm, because being safe and calm helps you navigate through those difficult moments. Some material from your personal life might come up, but it's not a guarantee. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Every journey is different. But again, it's not pure exposure therapy. That would be really difficult and uncomfortable if it was just taking a medicine that made you look at all your stresses in life, like, and all your worst things. Like, that would not be so enjoyable. It tends to maybe possibly bring up some of those things, but it's almost always in balance with showing you also beautiful things and how to heal and how to process those. So when I see something come up, material that might be difficult or past memories or something, I see that through breathing and allowing and using the tools to get through that difficult moment, there comes a lot of completion and awareness. And research even has shown phenomenally that using psychedelics for PTSD can really help even move the memories. So memories in PTSD are in like active working memory, where they can cause a trigger and a physiological response. And after a psychedelic journey, there's been a level of completion. The brain is kind of solve the problem or close the loop, and then those memories go to a different part of the brain, which is long-term memory storage, and there's no more trigger and there's no more, physical reaction when you think about those things. So it really does bring about incredible healing.
You and I both know that this works more often than not, and it's really pretty incredible. At the same time, there are people that come out that it doesn't work for. How would you describe how people should manage their expectations and what some of the things might be to manage those expectations?
Mm, that's a great question. Managing expectations, I feel it has a lot to do with who the person is, maybe why they feel like they are the way they are, how they've maybe tried to work on themselves in the past or not. And so one aspect is medications, pharmaceutical medications that work on the serotonin pathways. Some people are on several of them. Most people are on maybe one or two, but some people are on maybe 4 to 6. They call them like the cocktail to help people stabilize. And pharmacological medicine like that is incredible. It saves people's lives, but they're not designed to heal or cure. They're designed to manage symptoms. And so oftentimes people stay on them for a while to manage the symptoms, but truly there's also a different level of like getting in there to do the work. And so back to like managing expectations, that helps to know where someone is coming from. And one way to manage expectations is if people are on a large amount of medications like that, pharmacological, they might not have as big of a journey. And that's pretty rare experience, like,
Right.
because plenty of people that I've worked with have been on multiple medications and they come in and they have maybe not the big journey like they were thinking what they saw on TV or something, but they still get enough of a reset and they start to see some hope and some inspiration that there might be some different ways for them to heal. We go over managing expectations. I tend to be more people, I say, would describe it as like, I don't want to have high expectations because I've already tried everything else. And I like to say, well, it's okay to like have some high expectations. This is a very powerful medicine. It's just understanding how it works. And afterwards with the follow-up, it's really important. That's a big part of what integration is helping each person make the changes and understand how they can really increase the efficacy of this medicine by doing lifestyle changes and, all the different ways to continue the process.
It's really important that people come in with the idea that I think this is not necessarily going to be revolutionary, although it may, and that it's more evolutionary. And even your dosing strategy seems to be, let's get the internal healer starting to think and learn about what's going on and gathering the information about what's going on, about what's inside. And then that's part of that whole process. So that's really pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me a little bit about, or potential clients, a little bit about how you approach integration and what integration is?
So I think integration is one of the most important parts. I like to tell my clients it's really not the most important part what happens during your session. That's one big piece of it. But some people might have literal storylines when their life come up. Some people have just a lot of imagery or colors or body sensations, or they felt light or hot, or their body moved around. And then afterwards, they maybe don't remember as much. It was a big experience. And I like to tell them, like, you don't need to come back with a list of instructions. You don't need to come back feeling like you solved all the problems in your life. It's setting a lot of things in motion. So integration is huge afterwards. Like, how do we keep this going? Because it's almost like it gives a lot of growth boost and almost plant seeds that are starting to grow after. And so the weeks and the months afterwards are some of the most important, because that's when you will start to notice some of those deeper changes come, because the reset that a lot of people talk about is you get a reset, and then moving forward, you can start to notice maybe some of those old patterns coming back, but you have a little bit more space to maybe cues how to rewire different thought patterns, different neural pathways, and the enhanced ability of neurogenesis that the psilocybin gives for a month or two or so afterwards. It's happening. It's not something you notice or feel, but you can really enhance it with a lot of different practices to keep you doing things. So yeah, part of integration is really helping people resource many different things that they could be doing to enhance this, and maybe also finding more effective therapies or modalities or just new things in their life that are going to help enhance this new information. Yeah, that continues to unfold.
That's amazing. And that also is the end of our time today. Dabney, thank you so much for sitting down and going through some of these things. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Andreas.